And now, WebEx 2025 keynote session. Let's get started. Please welcome Phillip Lord of Marusho Hotta, Akshay Naheta from Bakkt, and our moderator is Leia Sato Garcia from Coinpost. Please welcome.
Wow, okay, look at this crowd. I'm so excited to present to you all. Hello, I'm Leia Sato from Coinpost, organizing WebEx 2025, and I have these two amazing men on stage with me today. So let's do some introductions. We have Phillip Lord, is CEO of Marusho Hotta, Tokyo Stock Exchange 8105, leading its transformation into Bitcoin.jp. He is also the president of Bakkt International and a long-time crypto advocate and investor. Phillip, can you further elaborate your experience in Japan and Asia, which put you in a prime position to attract significant institutional capital for Bitcoin.jp, please?
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here and super excited to be back in Japan. I first moved to Japan in 1999 and lived here for 5 years and traded and invested in the market until about 2013. So when I look at your companies, I normally go by stock code, 9432, etc., like NTT. So yeah, we're excited to be back. We just recently invested into Marusho Hotta, and I become CEO. And we've got an EGM coming up, and we're going to add Bitcoin Treasury to it. So we're excited about this.
Thank you very much. The reason I had to do two big introductions is because we have Akshay Naheta, the president and CEO of Bakkt New York Stock Exchange listed BKKT. A former SoftBank executive, he has led multi-billion-dollar investments globally and is focused on building regulated digital asset infrastructure and financial innovation. Akshay spearheaded some of SoftBank's most important investments, such as ARM. Today, a $125 billion company. He bought 5% of Naheta for SoftBank in 2017 and was also involved in several after investments in leading companies around the world. Akshay, please, would you tell us more about Bakkt?
Thank you. So Bakkt is a spin-out from the Intercontinental Exchange, which is a global leader in exchanges and financial data services. Famously, they own the New York Stock Exchange as well. Today, Bakkt continues to be one of the only digital asset-related businesses that ICE is involved in, and ICE continues to remain our largest shareholder. I joined Bakkt about 5 months ago, where Bakkt ended up signing a cooperation agreement to take over my stablecoin payment startup, which I started about 2 years ago after leaving SoftBank. And I believe that we're in a very interesting moment in time here where, from a macroeconomic perspective, what money is, how money moves, and how markets trade and operate are all going to dramatically transform themselves over the next decade or so. And I think the new incoming administration in the US is really leading the charge, where the president has talked about making the US the crypto capital of the world. So with the Genius Act, which gets stablecoins fully regulated and into the mainstream, the Clarity Act, which should get passed by the end of the year, which talks about the tokenization of all kinds of assets on chain. And then finally, with the disruption around the world that we're seeing with respect to government balance sheets, Bitcoin as a store of wealth and value becomes a very important asset class going forward. And Bakkt really is hitting on all of these different areas. Bakkt has regulated global infrastructure in the US. And on top of that infrastructure, we have three main business lines. One is our regulated brokerage-in-a-box technology, which allows institutions to instantaneously launch in the US within a matter of 30 to 40 days to provide crypto trading to US consumers and businesses. Normally, these licenses take anywhere between 3 to 5 years to get. Given that we already own all the licenses pan-US, we can literally jumpstart a company to launch in the US instantaneously. The second business is our Bakkt Agent, which is our neo-banking platform, which we will launch on Labor Day. We'll have a beta launch for it. And that allows you to send money cross-border straight into bank accounts in over 90 countries around the world. And finally, we're the only US-listed company that's pursuing a international Bitcoin treasury strategy where we are bringing our regulated and institutionalized platform to different markets, with the first one being Japan, and we look forward to, in the near future, announcing a lot more on that front as well.
Thank you very much. Now, Phillip, can you tell us about your plans for Marusho Hotta?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I've been in traditional finance for a long time, for about 13, 14 years, principally in Japan and in Asia. So we want to use that network to connect with the institutional investors and make it a digital asset company in the future, subject to shareholder approval at the EGM. But we think Japan's such a good market. It's the third most liquid market in the world. We love Japan. We know a lot of investors globally. And the domestic market is good, but also very international accepted market. So we see it as a great opportunity here, and I think we can be a very large digital asset treasury company in Japan in the future, and dominate and be one of the top ones in the space globally. So that's our plans.
Wow, very excited for that. Now, why did you look into invest in Japan and plan for staff? Why did you look to invest in Japan and plans for staff?
I mean, just in the name, Satoshi Nakamoto. I mean, we obviously know Japan's been so quickly to adopt cryptocurrency and been such it's been around here since very early stages. I've had lots of friends here that have been created great crypto companies from Japan, and the penetration rate of crypto investors is very, very high comparative to the rest of the world. And then obviously the stock market is just so internationally recognized here, and it's very liquid, and it's the regulators do an amazing job here. It's got respect globally. So for not just retail investors, domestic investors, but the institutions of the world, the Fidelities and Capitals and Templetons and all of those guys overseas, this is deemed as the best market in Asia. So we wanted to step into here, and obviously I think debt is an issue with governments in the world, and there will be people spending money. So we see this as a good way to have a listed proxy of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I just add that also Japan, the regulatory environment here is extremely favorable and attractive to have a digital asset treasury company, because you have corporate tax that's applicable on Bitcoin investment gains, number one. Number two, you have retail investors can buy shares in listed companies in a NISA eligible account, which gives them complete tax-free benefits. And finally, I think Phillip has touched upon this, but the liquidity available, institutional and retail liquidity pools in Japan are second to none in Asia. And I think what we bring to the table, and hopefully very soon we'll be able to discuss a lot of this when our EGM gets underway for the company. But we will be able to attract several hundreds of millions of dollars of capital right off the bat, which will make a massive difference. And we're playing this game to win. And our goal is that we will end up owning anywhere between 1.5% to 2.5% of total supply in due course, as Bakkt as a whole, as we go out and we launch these digital asset treasury companies around the world.
Now, you might have kind of already answered this question with all those crazy numbers and crazy future we see ahead, but what do you see in the future for Bitcoin? And I would like to ask Phillip first.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Bitcoin maxi, so, I got into crypto thanks to a friend of mine, Roger Vera, in 2017, and, basically was it, governments keep spending, and our currency, as we all know in Japan, our currency's weakened, I'm British, so my British pound has weakened, and Bitcoin's risen, so, I think there's a limited supply, and longer term, governments are going to continue to spend. So, I'd prefer to own Bitcoin than I would my own currency, So I'm a long-term believer. And I think, we've been late. Bitcoin's been a little bit late to building the ecosystem. And I think there's going to be a lot more in this next cycle being built on that as well. But that's a kind of side note. At the core, I trust Bitcoin more than governments spending money,
Now, Akshay, I want to hear from your Bakkt perspective. What do you think is the future for Bitcoin/Bakkt?
So, just to add to what Phillip said, today we are at about a $2 trillion market cap for Bitcoin. And when you compare that as a store of value and compare it to other stores of value like gold and so on, there's a large gap between where we are today and where things could be in the future. And I think, these arguments have been made time and again in a crypto conference. I don't think talking about the merits of Bitcoin really makes sense because everyone in this room probably has some exposure to Bitcoin already. In terms of Bakkt itself, I think that the entire retail banking and consumer finance stack is going to get reinvented. I think the US is going to lead the way, and I think Bakkt is in a very strong position to be a leader with our neobanking product, which I'm very excited about. And I think that, how Bitcoin participates in where the world is going from a macroeconomic perspective, to Philip's point around the fiscal debt challenges that we have around the world, is yet to be seen, but I think it'll be front and center. I have no doubt about that.
I think just to add on that, Bakkt's in a great position for, there's going to be a lot of companies. You've seen Tesla, you've seen a lot of corporates add Bitcoin, but this is like, 0.01% of companies adding Bitcoin to their treasury. Why would you want to hold fiat when you can hold Bitcoin, and actually appreciate your balance sheet? And, digital asset treasury companies are an example of that, but I think we're going to see a lot of, bigger companies add a lot more, Bitcoin to their balance sheet. Maybe the Mitsuis and Mitcorps one day, who knows?
Maybe.
But, I think it's an exciting time for our ecosystem.
Well, unfortunately, this is going to be the end of these amazing guests on stage, and let's see what happens in 2026. Hopefully everything goes good, and welcome to Japan's market. Let's have a round of applause for Akshay and Phillip.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your wonderful discussion. We are moving on to the photo session. On stage, with everyone on stage. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Amazing. Thank you very much. That's it for group photo session. And then a round of applause to everyone who was on stage. Thank you very much for your wonderful discussion. Thank you.